for joining us again for another episode of Poopology. We're at the Atzaro Spa and Health Centre in Ibiza. We've had a wonderful day relaxing, which is probably why we sound a little bit sleepy today. Apologies. And as always, I've got my co-host Claire.
I think I'll change my name to Crispy Claire today from the sun.
And I've got Jamila.
Hello, I'm not changing my name because I'm not crispy.
And we have the wonderful Uzma joining us again.
Hello.
So now we're going to talk about our poopy moments of the week. Go.
I am going. So I've had a few poopy moments of the week. So basically, my friends are deaf. I said one thing and all they heard was jack strips. And I've not heard anything but jack strips for days now.
That is what you said.
That is not what I said.
Exactly what you said.
I concur that is what you said.
Uzma, I'm just going to point out that you, at one point, told me you didn't even know what I said. And now that the fact that you've changed your mind, that is peer pressure. Do not succumb to it. I'm moving on, guys. I'm moving on very swiftly to my other poop moment, which happened this morning. So I got woken up by our very classy neighbours in our apartment who were making a show of themselves at the pool all day and woke me up at 20 to 6 with party exuberance having come back from a club. I thank them for waking me up in time for sunrise. What I don't thank them for is actually being flashed and realising that they were naked and getting to see full frontal, which was not the way I wanted to start my day.
20 to 6 in the morning. Hello.
That was my cue to come back in off the balcony.
I mean, if there's a way of getting ready to go to a spa, that's got to be it.
So my poopy moment happened just before we were leaving for Ibiza. It was the day before, and my 3-year-old said, "Come and play with me, mummy." And I said, "Okay, what are we playing?" And he said, "We're playing captains and ships." And I said, "Excellent, can I be the captain?" And he went, "No, you are the big whale." I was like, thanks.
So you're not even a ship?
No, I am the big whale.
Oh my god.
So I was like, great, thanks. Thank you, darling. Appreciate the body boost
okay,
there.
fair enough.
My poopy moment was a few nights ago when I was delirious because I was so tired and I was trying to explain that my ankles and my feet hurt, but instead I went, everything below my feet. No, sorry.
I'm pretty sure what you said was.
Well, that would have been even worse.
Yeah.
But I said everything below my ankles were in pain, so just my feet.
That made me laugh a lot since I'm sharing a bedroom with her. So yeah.
And your poopy moment?
My poopy moment has to be when I received a rather intriguing email from Ryanair around 48 hours before our trip. So I was full on ready. I told all the girls we're going to buy all our duty-free allowance of alcohol because other people who've been to Ibiza will know that it's quite expensive to drink in the nightclubs. And we thought we'd be a little bit more suave. We've got sea-facing balconies, so we thought we'll sit out on the balcony and have some beverages before we go out every night. So that was the plan. And then I received an email, Ryanair. If you are flying to Ibiza, please ensure that you're aware that you cannot buy anything from duty free unless you put it into your suitcase and we take it into hall. Otherwise, we're not going to let you on the aeroplane, basically. And you're not allowed to come intoxicated. And you are just generally not allowed to drink or consume alcohol in any way whatsoever. So that, I think, was my poopy moment. I know it's sad, but I had a poopy moment then. I thought, no.
Especially as we were allowed to buy duty free, we were allowed to take it on the plane, and there were people drinking on the plane.
Well, I think that made it even more poopy, because then I thought, why have they let us on with this alcohol? Is it because we look too old? They don't actually...
Too mature.
These ladies look very sensible. I think we will allow them to take their alcohol on. Since they bought a bottle of champagne and a lovely liqueur, they look like the Ibiza types.
Excuse me, 37%.
Oh.
That liqueur literally would like coat engines.
Rocket fuel.
Yeah. It's gorgeous though.
So today we're going to pick up a subject that we kind of touched upon in one of our previous podcasts about identity. There was a little section, I guess, at the end of one of the podcasts where we were talking about passports, all having British passports, and we all here do have British passports. However, I'm half Turkish, half Scottish. Claire
I am born in Yorkshire, raised in New Zealand.
I was born here, but my parents are from the West Indies, so our family have always had British passports, but we're black.
And I was born here, but my parents are Turkish.
So it's just interesting because even though we're all British and we all have British passports, I'm not quite sure if we all necessarily identify as that. I know that when people ask me, where are you from, I tend to say I'm Turkish. And I think that's because, I grew up with my mum, and her culture probably is more embedded in me than anything else, I would think. That's my own situation anyway.
Yeah.
And I was born in Turkey and lived in Turkey until I was about 6, brought up by a bunch of Turkish women, my grandmother and my aunt. So I think probably that's why I see myself as more Turkish than anything else. But weirdly, when I'm in Turkey and people ask me, I say I'm Turkish, but I've come from London, just to explain why I'm not like every other Turkish person in terms of my views or the way I look, or perhaps even just my clothes.
What about your accent?
My Turkish accent is quite good, if I do say so myself. I probably have what you would class as like Queen's English, but the Turkish version. The only time they actually think that I don't talk like a Turkish person is because I was taught Turkish such a long time ago and I haven't lived there for so many years. I don't know any slang words. So when I talk, I speak extremely proper and use what they now call Old Turkish language, which is kind of almost like Shakespearean, probably. That's like the closest way of explaining it, is that a lot of the words I use stem from Arabic and they're like very old school. So generally people in their 80s talk like I talk. Or journalists, or, like people like that talk like that. So that kind of throws people a little bit.
Oh.
I think more than that is when I talk, it throws people. Because I'm like 25 talking like that.
Yeah, that's true. Uzma gets that too.
Yeah, so I grew up in New Zealand, but I've lived in London for 15 years now. And whenever I go back home, so I'm from a small town, my friends do laugh at me and they call me posh, which I think is funny because I don't think I sound anything remotely posh, but I think it comes down to the slang words. I don't use slang words, and it's because we weren't allowed to as children. We would always get told off, so we weren't allowed to say sort of Kiwi-ized slang words. So I think I remember once one of my friends saying to me, "Oh, you speak so posh sometimes, Claire, when you come back." I said, "What are you give me an example of what you're referring to." She said, "That, what you just said then."
Referring to.
Nobody speaks like that. So,
how may I help you?
Oh, please, caller. They do make fun of me with my bizarre Kiwi accent.
And for me, born and bred, London, Hackney. Apparently the only time I sound like I'm from Hackney is when I say the word Hackney. Oh. Apparently, now that doesn't even think because I actually pronounce the H. But yeah, for me, my identity's always been quite split. Born and bred in London and in city London. But yeah, in amongst a very much Caribbean family, so Caribbean food. I did definitely, learn some slang, but I can't do accents, so me attempting to do any kind of Caribbean accent just actually sounds like an insult to my entire family.
Go and do it.
Yeah, we're intrigued now.
I dare you.
No, it's really bad. Sometimes it sounds like I'm doing somebody from Yorkshire, but I'm trying to do a Jamaican accent. It's literally, it's just, it's an insult to all, involved. But sometimes I find it quite hard because on the form, when they ask you about your identity, I get two options: Black African / Black Caribbean.
Yeah.
Because we're all obviously a homogenised group, or Black UK, and often I don't feel like either.
Well, it's interesting what you say about forms actually, because for years we've not ticked either anything or just, if there is a British, and sometimes white, because we're not any of those things. We're not Asian. Mm-hmm. Like the closest thing, I guess, is like Asian, but we're not actually Asian. Yeah. We're not European, even though half our country is in Europe. We're not, do you know what I mean? It's like we don't actually have a box to tick. Yeah. There's no such box that exists for us.
Mine is always white British, but that's not me, because I start identifying myself as an English Kiwi.
Right, yeah.
So I find that's the easiest sort of way to say it. But the only option for me is white British on all those forms, or white other.
Yeah. It was interesting because you had that issue, right, with your son?
Yes.
And some passport problems.
I did. Yeah. So I was trying to get my children New Zealand passports, which I thought because I'm a New Zealand citizen and I grew up there, that it was just going to be an absolute formality, that there was going to be no issue, that I would just send it off and I would get their New Zealand passports and they would come back in the post and everything would be lovely. And I got a call from New Zealand immigration. I thought, oh, that's a bit weird. Why are they calling me? And he said that because my New Zealand citizenship is through descent through my father, that it stops there and my children are not able to get New Zealand passports and citizenship off the back of me. So I went, what? Because I had no idea that my New Zealand citizenship was through my father by descent. I thought I had it of my own right. I did actually feel sorry for this guy because I said to him, I'm about to cry. And he went, oh, okay. And I went, no. I just literally went hysterical at this poor guy on the phone. And I'm thinking he probably has no counselling degree at all and doesn't know how to deal with some wailing 40-year-old woman crying because her children can't get New Zealand passports. So he did explain that there are two ways that I can do that if we ever did decide to go, that they could get visas and go as immigrants, which I wholly object to. Not that there's anything wrong with being an immigrant, but when I'm a citizen of that particular country, it was a real shock to me. Or the other option was that we needed to apply to the Minister of Foreign Affairs and he would grant us, or hopefully will grant us, a special ministerial grant where we can claim for citizenship for the children that way. But we had to write a letter claiming our ties. My parents had to write a statement. We had to show all sorts of evidence that we had all of these ties to New Zealand. So we're still waiting to see if the children can get New Zealand passport. But aside from that, the other thing for me was the shock of, am I not a proper Kiwi?
Yeah.
Am I not a proper New Zealander? Why am I only half a Kiwi? Like, what is that? I've always identified as a New Zealander, so being told that you don't have the same rights as a full citizen, I don't know if that's the correct terminology, but it was pretty shocking.
Yeah.
It took me a few days to get over that. I was a bit shocked.
Yeah. I mean, when you were explaining on the phone, I could tell you were really, cut up about the fact that you felt like, what is my identity?
Yeah,
like,
what does
what
that
am I
mean?
now?
Yeah.
Yeah. What am I now? And why aren't my children, the same as me? Or why can't they be considered the same? So that's why I think it's quite an interesting subject. I mean, we have the same sort of thing in Turkey. I know that we've allowed our passports to lapse before because we don't really have a use for the passports. There's identity cards and other things in Turkey, which is what you kind of use for most of your sort of requirements. If you need to open a bank account or you need to do something, you can use your ID card. Passport is only really used for travelling, and because we're British and we have British passports, we don't really need a Turkish passport to travel. So for many years we just couldn't be bothered to get it updated, and then something happened. Oh yes, Mum decided she was going to take us to Russia. And we didn't realise that you can't go to Russia on your British passport without a visa.
Okay.
And the visa application process is quite long. And me in particular, I actually fall into the can't get a visa category because I studied medical biology. And if you studied or have done a master's degree in kind of science related, especially anything with chemistry in it, they do not want you to come to their country.
Why?
I don't know. I mean, I think at the time I remember joking and saying, what do they think I'm going to build, like an atom bomb or something? I mean, it's not a skill that you're taught in medical biology, but, So I have no idea. It's actually on the form. It says, if you have studied the following subjects at university level or higher.
So you can never ever go to Russia?
Basically not with my British passport.
Okay.
But with my Turkish passport, I don't even need a visa.
Really?
Yes.
Oh. Is that like
That is so weird.
a Cold War throwback?
I
kind of
have
thing?
no idea what it is.
You're exactly the
really
same
know.
person. You can enter on two different passports, the same identity.
Yeah.
On your Turkish one,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah.
But on your
exactly.
British one,
Yeah.
no, sorry,
Yeah.
you can't come in.
Very strange.
Do you
very
think that's the
strange.
relationship between the countries rather
Could be.
rather than
I mean,
anything else?
Turkey and Russia have traditionally had a very good relationship. In recent years, our Prime Minister said a few things that has pissed the Russian Prime Minister off on a couple of occasions, where he just kind of flew a few planes aggressively over our country and we just stopped talking. But other than that, generally the relationship, I think, has been a good one. So it could be that.
Yeah, interesting.
Not quite sure.
So I remember my dad, he's a Kiwi, telling me a story about when he was 21. He was going to Australia, from New Zealand to Australia. Like a lot of Kiwis do, they go to Australia, to Sydney to live for a while. And this was before the days that you really needed passports. So you could just travel between the two countries. And there was a situation with an interesting character that was a friend of someone he knew who was in a bit of trouble with the police or with some gangs or something. So he took my dad's ticket and travelled across to Australia as my dad.
Oh my God.
And left my dad his ticket.
What?
So the only thing my dad could do was travel across to Australia on this ticket called JJ Greenaway.
Oh my God.
So when he gets to Sydney Airport,
Yeah.
the first thing they do is they grab him, the police,
Yeah.
security are waiting for him, and they realise he clearly does not fit the
Yeah.
description of this JJ Greenaway, and they let him go. They
Oh
let
my
him go
God.
into no passports required.
Yeah, I mean,
So that was a dodgy
Yeah.
friend of a friend, really.
It was like this extended friend, yeah.
but you had no passports required then, and then that kind of goes back to what's happening with Brexit and all of that sort of stuff now. Everyone's fighting about hard borders and how to sort of separate each other. America and its wall with Mexico, and there's us trying to create an imaginary wall with the rest of Europe, and even looking at how we could potentially put up walls even amongst ourselves as the British Isles, with
Yeah.
Ireland and Scotland wanting to stay and all this kind of stuff. So the days of free travel, I think, are fastly ending.
No more JJ Greenaway tickets.
No.
But also it would have made this trip significantly harder for us. Like literally all we had to do was book tickets, find a hotel and get on a plane.
Yeah.
Like in 2 years' time, will we have to get visas
Yeah.
and get approved before we can even book a ticket? Then
Yeah, I mean, possibly, yeah. I know pre-European Union, us joining the European Union, we had to get visas, but they were just visas at the door. However, now that we've basically pissed off half of Europe, I'm not quite sure, if that's going to be like as freely available. And then I'm intrigued because there are lots of people talking about how many European Union citizens are residing in the UK and the fact that they're, taking over our country, and that's why we want to go through this Brexit scenario. But I think there's a hell of a lot of English people that live in Spain, for example, as well as lots of other countries outside of Europe too. There's so many people going to Australia and New Zealand, like loads of people moving to these places. Canada, where there are certain professions that are sort of widely wanted in the country and they get paid very well. So is this a bit of a double standard, or what do you think?
I think it's a double-edged sword because, to be quite honest, life in England is not as easy. Like it, we have all the first world greatness, but we also have all the first world problems. And also, I don't know, living in London, it's expensive. You're really quite separate from people. Whereas, my friends who've moved abroad, the first thing they've done is with the money they've moved abroad with, I can afford a house. It's about 4 times the size. One of my friends lives in Australia now, and I'm pretty sure that their entire first floor of their house is the size of their old house in England, is the size of their kitchen in Australia, and yet they can afford to buy a 4-bedroom house with ease and better weather. And they were only thinking of going out there for a few years. I don't think they're ever coming back. And that's that's 2 people have lost. I know so many people have gone abroad because they've got the skills that other countries want and value and will pay for, and they've got the lifestyles that actually people want, which is a little bit busy, but you've got the balance.
But do you not think then we should be able to offer other people from other countries whatever they're looking for in our country? You're talking about your friends who could get a bigger house or a better job or a different lifestyle, better standard of living. So they've managed to go to wherever they've gone to and get that. How about those people coming from there to our country to get whatever it is that they're attracted to?
But I think it is a double-edged sword. Well, actually, I think it's a one-edged sword because we'll have people going, but we won't have people coming in.
What do you think it is that makes them attract to the UK?
I think people think that there's a lot of job opportunities and that, it's a more thriving economy. If you look even within Europe, Greece has had problems. Italy has had massive problems. There's been a lot of recession all over Europe. People in Spain have suffered, joblessness has risen quite significantly. So people from these countries have had issues. So when they can freely, move in and out of the UK and there's a requirement for a service that they're able to provide, why not? There's a lot of nurses in the NHS and doctors that come from Europe. And now that some of them have left in fear of what's happening, there's actually a shortage. So, there was clearly a necessity and they needed jobs. They came and we needed those people, and it's worked out in some way. And I do think it is kind of equalised in some way too, because then there are people, as you say, like your friends who had a bit of money but couldn't afford a proper house in England, but they've invested in the economy in where they've gone to, right? So if they've bought a house in Spain, they've actually invested in, or if they've started a job, you know, in this country, they've invested into this country. So does it not just equalise? You know, it's kind of going back to, you culturally identify as something, you're quite strong about it, and then, you know, nationalism and things like that kind of perhaps rise out of that. But feeling like you strongly identify as something, does that also mean that you have to be totally kind of cut off from accepting, you know, other people? I don't know if I'm putting this right. Does that make sense?
I don't think it does. So my dad is a New Zealander and my mum is British. She's from Yorkshire. They've lived in New Zealand for 30 blah 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 years. And my mum definitely considers herself more New Zealand than she does British, but that doesn't mean that she forgets her British roots.
Yeah, exactly.
She will cheer on the All Blacks, she will do all of those things. She's a gardener, so she got fully invested in all to the native plants and has done all of that kind of stuff. So she's fully invested in the New Zealand lifestyle and the New Zealand culture, but she definitely hasn't forgotten her British roots.
Because really nationalism and unacceptance of other people seem to be something that goes hand in hand. Like, that's how we see it. But actually, you know, I think I'm kind of a nationalist. You know, I am strong in my thoughts about my country, but I don't think it needs to mean that I don't have any tolerance for anybody else, or can't see that there is actually some sort of equilibrium in people going and coming. You know, the only places where that equilibrium doesn't exist is in countries where there is a war. So, you know, there's all this like really strong views about immigrants, but really, if you're in a country that's in war, what are you expected to do? You know, you are trying to flee with your children, and you are not doing this by choice. You know, who wants to leave their house, all their belongings? Probably they don't have any money, you know, because when a war breaks out, everything just collapses. You've got no money, you're obviously leaving behind your job, and you can't pretend that the entire country was full of poor people that had poor people's jobs. You know, some of these people were doctors, nurses, you know, lawyers, teachers, all kinds of people. So they're leaving their jobs behind and moving halfway across the world to a space where they're not wanted, they're ridiculed, they've got no money, they have no belongings, and they're at the destitute of others. Who actively seeks that? No one. You know, that's an act of desperation, obviously.
Yeah, we were, my husband and I were sort of talking a while back. What would we do if war broke out in the UK? If there was a civil war or a war, how would we get to a safe country? And obviously to us, that safe country is New Zealand. How would we get there? Like, if there was a war and we couldn't get a plane, would we have to cross the channel and then basically walk across the entire globe to try and then boat hop in Southeast Asia to get to New Zealand? Like, how would we do that?
With your three little
With
children.
our three small children, how would we get there? How would we manage it? It was a really sort of bizarre discussion on we would have to go through this way, and was looking at the map and sort of deciding which way we would go. Yeah, it was really strange to think that you would even have to consider that.
And for me, because you're using the word nationalism and stuff, and I just feel like that somewhere along the line, that word has been perverted. Because for me, being proud of where I come from, which I am proud of being British, I'm proud of where I grew up, I'm proud of the community and the society that I'm part of, to a certain extent, Brexit not included. I feel like I am a nationalist. I'm proud of where I come from. You know, I have pride and stuff, or maybe I'm a patriot, I don't know, but I feel like for so many, nationalism means that actually somehow my country or my colour or station in life makes me better than somebody else, which is then, you know, so I'm already trying to set myself apart, and I feel like that word has been perverted. So like, I can't say I'm proud of my nation, because then I'm like, oh, are you a nationalist? No, I'm not a bigoted
Yeah, you're not. That's what I mean, though. You're not a nationalist in the current understanding of that word, right? Because a nationalist doesn't actually mean that. You know, the definition is just that you're, you know, as you said, love your country and.
So, do we need a campaign to take back the word nationalist?
Maybe.
And turn it into a positive,
I think
light.
we need a campaign for a lot of things. To be honest with you.
we'll put it on the list of campaigns to be started then. But it's just, when you're talking about identity, like for a lot of people, they don't even know who they are. Really and truly, they really don't know who they are. A lot of them don't know what they stand for or what their values are until it's put to the test.
Yeah.
And normally that's then in a negative way rather than a positive way. So then what comes out of that is the negatives, like, oh, this kind of person is bad or did something bad to somebody that I know who knew somebody else. So by default, everybody else is bad. To be quite honest, I used to laugh at the people going on about like Polish builders and whatnot and stuff and how they're taking all the jobs. And I was like, well, to be quite honest, we had a couple of guys that did maintenance over, in our house over the years. And one of the guys was Polish. And to be quite honest, he turned up when he said he was. He did the work he said he was going to do for the price he said it was going to do it in the time he said it was going to do it in. Like, that was a very rare occurrence with so many others. Not just British, but other nationalities included. So why would you not go back to somebody offering you superior service or actually the service that they promised?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where they're from.
Yeah.
I remember when I was 10 or 11, I can't remember, and I had a realisation. So I was cycling home from school with a friend from school, and she said to me, "Your mum talks funny." And I thought, what do you mean my mum talks funny? No, she doesn't. And I went home and I said, "Mum, this girl from school says that you talk funny." And she said, "It's because I have a Yorkshire accent." And for 9-10 years, I didn't even know, because I was so used to her accent that I could never hear it. And it wasn't until then I remember started to ask more questions about, what do you mean you have a Yorkshire accent? Why is your accent different from other people? What's going on here? And it was sort of then I had this realisation about 9 years old. It's like, oh yeah, there are different accents in different countries, and yeah, it was weird.
I guess this whole thing about identity is all about whether or not you want to be surrounded by people who you think are just like you. Like same area, same relative experience, same background. Do you want to be, basically surrounded by carbon copies of yourself? Or do you want to be surrounded by people that actually add dimension to your life? And
I mean, to be honest though, I want to be with people that are similar to myself, but you guys are all similar to me.
okay.
So I don't think that my cultural identity means that, you've got to be sick, because clearly we are not. We're not of the same culture.
yeah.
Jamila's black, you're brown, and right now I'm pink. So
United
saying lobster red.
you're lobster red, we'll go with that.
United colours of Benetton over here. So, but I don't think that that's what kind of defines you. That's what I mean. I think that it's something else. I think that you can have similar thought processes and even have like a similar upbringing and similar kind of values in life, and have parents that come from totally different parts of the world. You might eat slightly different food, but other than that, I don't think much else is going to be different.
Yeah.
I certainly don't feel, different to you guys in that respect.
It's all about being like-minded though, isn't it?
Yeah. Exactly. So thank you very much for joining us today, and please join us again with the next episode of Poopology from Ibiza.
Who's on first?
Okay, so I'll do my poop moment.
Okay, go on then.
So my poop moment was definitely this morning.
Wait, do you not want to do an intro?
Yes, I was going to.
Oh,
but
sorry.
she's just like,
Oh, sorry.
this is trying to upstage me all the fucking time, honestly. Jack strips.